Hey there, y'all. Eric, our functional farmhouse. Today we are getting the ram on the lift. We are going to be installing a Thuren front axle brace, a bad axe parts steering sector shaft brace, and I'm going to be checking the ball joints. And we're going to go over all the fasteners on the whole truck just to make sure everything's tight, because I've got a little knock I didn't have before, and I'm taking a stab. It's probably the ball joints. The lower ball joints are the ones that actually bear the load. The upper ball joints help offset the keep the C's square during turning. So really, although this has 4 front end ball joints, only the lowers are carrying the weight plus the boogieing, and you know, the stock ones are not known for being super robust. So we're going to be getting her on the hoist. I am going to be going after the front body mount, not body mount, but chassis chassis support. These front arms have a tab, but when you're racking something this heavy, having something movable, especially as that's at an angle and it's loading and wanting to push out the front, I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going to take a little extra time to get these mounted, and with these amp steps, it does block some of my access, so I've got to keep the pads off, I've got to raise it up, situate the pads, and I'm using wood blocks interfacing between the chassis and the that pad for the lift. So follow along and see how slow this goes. All right, we pad in, hopefully. I can't see anything down here. Nope, I gotta come down a little bit. And you just heard me hit those locks. I gotta pull those. Good inch. There we go. Let me go get the other side. Right, now that we've cleared that, we can position these to land on the chassis, not on the body mount itself. All right, y'all, and we use wood because we want the wood to deform and deflect, not metal. So we are front and back, we are on, and you can see as this comes off how much the front axle deflects to the driver's side. That sway bar link, I don't know why in person it's like a 30-degree angle. I'm gonna have to unload the front suspension to remove that, but we are gonna set up. So a good way to check these is to have the vehicle slightly off the ground and use a large pry bar to come up under and see if we have any up and down deflection in here. So I'm gonna go get my big snap-on bar. Stand by. All right, y'all, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this wedged under here and we're gonna give it some pressure up and down. We're bouncing the whole truck. I am not seeing any deflection in here. I'm gonna get my finger in. Nope, not seeing anything on that. is not, I'm jazzing that pretty good. And oh, looks like my ball joints concern is not, oh shit. The perils of working on the floor. It looks like my ball joints are not a concern. So we're gonna continue, we're gonna pull the front wheels, we're gonna go over the suspension, and we're gonna get this dialed in for that truss install. All right, y'all, just chasing things down. I did tighten these I did in fact tighten these upper bushings, and it looks like I need to snug them up a little more. This side's got a little bit, but I'm just going over. Everything feels tight. There's a little tiny bump at the steering shaft. That looks good. The lowers look good. Everything's snug. I'm gonna go over all the bolts. Got a little rock hit right here. That's why we've got the intercooler guard. And then, yeah, this side under full droop. So that's likely my intermittent light fluttery clunk. I can't see that anything else big and loose. But again, we're gonna go over all of it, and we're gonna get this prepped for the truss. I have not disconnected the batteries yet. We are gonna be welding. I know I'm welding on the axle. I have not experienced it, but what can happen is if your ECUs and electronics still have a positive and negative ground path, what can happen is you can get a voltage spike in the ground side. It can find a home, and that's what can cause shorting when you're welding on a 12-volt vehicle. It's not the positive. The positive side's fused, and it's usually a ground spike that can happen. So we're going to be disconnecting the negative cables. We're not going to have a negative path. Hopefully, I know there are some other little grounds, but we are going to be clamping on the axle itself down here, and it's just a precaution. I want to take this thing, disconnecting and reconnecting the batteries. It hooks up GPS. Everything comes back online. There's really nothing to do. The computer system has a robust memory, so it's not like, oh shit, man, if I disconnect the battery, I gotta spend 20 minutes putting all my settings in, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. So I'm gonna follow Don Thuren's advice. I've got a chiseler for stripping paint, and figure, you know, he's the guy, he's the engineer, he's the one that did it. I think he knows how to assemble it and put it on. So I've watched his video a couple of times, and we're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be, because this is cast steel, what happens is when you weld mild steel on, the cast and the mild cool at different rates, and that can cause cracking of the weld. So from everything I've read, as long as we keep the temperature of the weld area below 220 and we move around, that's what I did when we did the Dominator mounts. And I mean, I'm not the best welder in the world, but given my equipment and skills, you know, it's not the prettiest looking stuff, but it's gonna work. And with the truss, we want to prevent this thing from smiling, so, you know, we're gonna put the front end into compression instead of tension, and you know, there we go. We're gonna follow the expert advice. I'm not an engineer, not trying to play one on YouTube, but that's where we're gonna go with this. So we'll see how much of that I can get for y'all that is interesting. All right, y'all, we've got that out of the way. All right, that's swinging nice. We're gonna check all these fasteners, and I'm gonna have to unload the axle to get, this is like this, it should be here, because if I start unmounting this, it's gonna get all sorts of tension that I don't want to deal with. And I'm gonna pop this brace off because I need to do some welding in here, and I might, or am I in the back? I don't know. We'll see how much of that we have to trim up to clear this. All right, we ordered these parts. This is not a sponsored video. I ordered these from CJC Off-Road. These were drop shipped, the Thuren package, 2 boxes direct from Thuren. I'm gonna be doing a diff service. Once we're up here, I had to take that Carli plate off, but I put just 2 bolts back in just so this doesn't weep on me. And this is packaged really well. This is gonna be the bar. These are the plates. This is a shipper problem, but this is really well done. This is taped up, stapled up. Here are all the gussets. Boogie rated, y'all. And then let's pull this end out. So you can see how well this is packaged. This is dense cardboard taped in here to keep these ends from deforming, from banging around. And you guys have seen videos on these. This thing is stout. So we're gonna go ahead and keep these out of here. And if you think I'm going to scratch with this razor blade, this is going to scratch the razor blade, in my opinion. And that's what we're going for right here. This is why we're performing this prophylactic hardening of the front axle. I don't think we've boogied hard enough to do damage yet, but we want to prevent damage from happening. So let me open up the rest of this package and get it laid out. This is a reasonably sharp blade, but this is wrapped in a number of different directions, making it a little more difficult to purchase on the perpendicular cut. There we go. And here we are. There's the rest of that. So we have our scaling tool, and I have a couple different Milwaukee and Snap-on. Got an angle sander, I've got a die grinder cutoff wheel, and I've got a another grinder. That's what we're going to be using to prep this up. All right, y'all, the devil's in the details on this, so they recommend kind of opening this up. We've got this side lower C done. I'm using a combination of 3 wire wheels. And you can see, you know, I've got the little one here. I'm going to get up in point, get in here. This is kind of a time and material type situation. We will switch to another wheel. Got a bigger cup we're gonna hit this with. Sorry y'all, I'm a one-man band here. You can just see this is slow going, so I'm gonna set the camera down and just keep doing my thing. All right, so we are prepping for the lower bar. We are going to start with this prep first, and I have got to lower the truck to disconnect those batteries like I said I would, and that's gonna be the next step here. All right, y'all, I have been working on this for quite some time, despite watching a little bit of the Thuren how-to video. So we are down here cleaning stuff up. This is going a lot slower than I had anticipated. I've been out here for at least an hour getting this stuff cleaned up underneath, and I'm having a hard time getting into some of this. I can get something to chicken shit stick in there that'll at least fill the gap, but I've got a needle scaler I bought. This was an overall pick on Amazon, and it's just not doing much. This paint on this axle is a little more robust than I had thought. All right, so I'm on the upper C's, and I've labeled these driver and passenger, and so I've just kind of rough fit them in here, and I've Sharpied around where I need to clean up. That way it's just an easier thing for me to do on both sides, and that way, you know, I know which ones are fitting, and we'll get these cleaned up next. All right, y'all, I am not a trained welder, and I'm going to show you my chicken shits in here. I am using 30 thousandths wire. There's a couple of passes. See, I got some punch through. I got to come in here, let this cool off. I'm going to hit the bottom. I'm using a Snap-on MM140. We're using a generator out here because I don't have a good circuit, and we are using, according to everybody, ER70S6 wire. It seemed to be a consensus that would give us something. And here is the passenger side, and again, I gotta come under here, and we're gonna kiss that up here in a minute and wrap it up. I mean, look, I'm not a professional welder. I'm not trying to be, and this is gonna be stronger than it was. Are these the prettiest welds you can get? No, they're not. They're the welds I got, and they're the welds I'm gonna run, and we're gonna wrap this part up today. I'm gonna hit the bottom, maybe try to touch up a little bit, and maybe get some paint on these, and we're gonna call this segment Dunzo. Hey there, y'all. We're on day 2 of this project, and it's my son's birthday today, so nothing's happening, but little PSA. So when I had my welding helmet on, I was using this drill, this wire wheel, just touching up the welds in here, and I just got back from the optometrist because I had a piece of metal stuck in my eye, so I don't know if you can see how irritated that is. I'm a big fan of PPE, and luckily she was able to get me in. Didn't cost much, but had a lot of irritation from last night. I thought I got it all out. I did not. I only embedded one piece even more, and it was starting to oxidize on my eyeball. So wear the glasses if you want. If not, if you're a tough guy, what John Wayne said, if you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough, something like that. So you know, this isn't the first time when you're working on stuff, especially grinding. It's gonna happen. I've had pretty good success getting stuff out of my eyes for at least 10-15 years. I haven't had to go and have this done in at least 20. So shit happens, and hopefully tomorrow I'm gonna be able to get some more traction on this. So I'm gonna give my eyes a break, and let's see, hopefully we can get some more progress. All right, this morning we are fitting the primary part of the truss up, and we are checking our fitment, and I'm trying to get in here so y'all can see what I'm seeing. I need to trim up the sides on this one's a little more. We need to come in and take quite a bit of material off to fit into the bottom of these C's. So I know Don Thuren had mentioned that, but he didn't really show why, and it makes you'll find this, you'll see that when you're doing it. But yeah, you just want to make sure that this bar is up in there as far as you can. That way it's not floating off. You want it in. What's going on with my helmet, but I had this problem last time I was welding, and the auto isn't autoing. I'm gonna go get my backup helmet. Got my Harbor Freight backup. All right, we'll give you a little overview with everything tacked in. So these are all welded up. The upper C's are welded on the top. I haven't done the bottom yet. This is what this gusset plate looks like over here. We're tight up on the axle. We're tacked in here. There's a couple of gaps. All of that's gonna get filled in as needed. This over the top, you can see that we're lined up here. We gave this a little tang for up into there, and same thing this side. We're not welded on the bottom yet either. And then on the back, I had to adjust this one to get in the bar, and then we've got that tacked, and then we are going to weld up all of this stuff. Noodles. Got a little ahead of myself putting these outer ones on. I'm gonna have to take those off. Yeah, I didn't realize I had to get those ends welded up in there first, and I know the video, now that I'm recalling it, does say doing that first, so shit happens when you're not a professional. All right, y'all, I got this thing welded in. It ain't pretty. I'm having a hard time. This is welding beyond my skill set, but yeah, this is the dirty truth. This is what I got. This is what I'm doing. I mean, it's stronger. It's stronger than it was. And I've got one more weld to lay on that upper spring perch, and then we're gonna see how much meat I have to take off my Carli front diff cover. All right, we got a couple coats of rattle can. That's looking a little bit better. Still not stoked on my welds, at least visually, and was having some problems with my 20 amp circuit, and you know, I'm showing it. Not the best weld job. I don't think it's going anywhere, but yeah, we'll see how we do next time we get her in the dirt. All right, here we have the bad axe parts. Sector shaft. We are going to be removing this nut. We're going to be putting this on, and then that's going to give us an additional point of protection, along with all this new truss. You want to say hi, button?
Hi.
So we're going to get disassembling and see what this looks like. Here we are, y'all. We're having to cut off this entire front flange off the bottom of my Carli diff guard, because we are now hitting the new Thuren truss, and I'm overdue for a fluid change anyway, so now's a good time to get this done, and we're just attacking this one bite at a time, and there it is. All right, we've got the Carli trimmed off perfect, and while I'm overdue for my fluid, so I pulled the cover. There's nothing to see from the welding. I mean, this is a really big, thick piece of cast, so we're gonna get some maintenance done while we're in here too, and keep tackling. That's a guy with a Subaru Turbo Doom buggy who's having a hard time tuning it. Anyway, we're doing the bad axe sector shaft brace, and I got a call out for a favor. So this was a 1.5. This was the largest in the set, and it had been opened up to 9/16. And you can see I was able to get the original nut off, but it's a little too big. So I've got this 1 7/16 that is, you know, it's a 16th too small. So we're going to open this guy up so I can get this done today. This was modified 15 years ago, and it's just, you can see this is the old Snap-on. It's an old Snap-on logo. It's been around. So I'm going to just chase a little bit so I can get this to fit, because this is just too loose, and I do not want to, there's just not enough bite. I was able to get this one loosened, even though it knocked me on my ass. Once it broke, I literally fell to the floor like an idiot. I knew that was going to happen. I don't have a socket big enough. I go up to 36 is the largest I have, so we're going to get that modified and just working on the cars, y'all. All right, y'all, so we kissed this up on the grinder. This is a 1.5 inch nut. This is a 1 7/16 inch crowfoot. We're making it work on a Friday, y'all. All right, y'all, we are going to see if I can torque this. The instructions say to torque this to 200 foot-pounds. Got my snap-on torque wrench set to 200. We're gonna see if we can. Oh, there it goes. Whew. When you're doing something that, if that were to slip or go off, you do not want to hit. So, boom, we hit the 200 mark. Whew. I'm going to use my Canadian jack to give me a hand to hold this up while I get this brace closer to install. Having a friend right now would be awesome. Doing garage beers. Come on. We gotta come down a little bit. We gotta get this around the spud nut. I got this all ass backwards, fellers. Sway bar goes above that, not below it. So that's a little tricky. There it goes, okay. We'll make sense of this one way or another. So he gave us new bolts. I need to see what size these are. Those are 15s. Here's all my... We're going to loosely tighten these as it says. Make sure we get... We need to leave it loose because the brace has some back and forth. It's got some Kentucky windage to get that bearing perfectly set up. So this has windage on both the bearing and those bolts. Zerk fitting faces backwards. We're going to put this with a little anti-seize, like it says. And, whoa, use my balance over here because I'm a freaking moron. We're going to size up these nuts and bolts while we're, so those are 19s. Okay, so I just need a 19 wrench. Those are hand tight. Let's see. Tighten frame bolts to 50. I gotta go get my other torque wrench. I fibbed. I'm just getting my 1/2-inch adapter. My 3/8 torque wrench doesn't really, I'm not gonna dick with it. I'm gonna use my, so we're gonna snug up all of these. Fall sterile cracker official. Get this out of here. We don't need this, do we need this, Wah! Sorry, I think that guy's freaking hilarious. We are going to get torque wrench set to 50. That's what he wants. Booyah. Right on the money. I would have done the nut to 200 a second time if I had it in me. That just wasn't going to happen, y'all. Okay, now I am going to get some mechanical advantage here. Oh, where'd that go? A freaking bonehead? Can I not see it? Derp. These still aren't tight yet. son. That's a good lock nut interface. I'm gonna push away from you with an open palm. That way you don't tag your knuckles if the shit gets squirrely on y'all. Because when it gets western, y'all. These are gonna go to 75 when we get there, but yo, that's snugged, y'all. Alrighty, let's get the torque wrench up to 75. I always like hitting it twice, that way you know. These have really snug lock nuts. That thing ain't coming off. And pro tip, it's always good to dial back your torque wrench to the lowest setting, and if you have a latch, leave it unlatched. That way it's not all bound up. Alright, now I've got to get an Allen wrench and torque these guys in. American. I was hoping they were going to be metric, but good thing we got both here. Stab, are those 8? That is an 8. There are 2 Allen heads on that. And let's just wipe a little bit. There's a little oil coming from the... Add grease to bearing, y'all. I'll be back. Alright, y'all. Grease gun acquired. We've got the ubiquitous lock and lube that's all goobed up. Let's clean this up a little bit. Don't like a dirty work area. Let's see what we got here. You can't see how much oil just came out of this thing. It's been sitting quite some time. There we go. All right, I think we're lubed. Clean up the huge freaking mess I just got on the ground. That's annoying AF. That's why I have it in these rags, but... And I just pressure washed this the other day. Alright, non-chlorinated brake cleaner, let's ride. It's the end of the day. I've been out here all freaking day, y'all. I'm a prima donna. I don't do this So, okay, bearing in, that all torqued. Let me show you what it looks like. Alrighty, so that guy just goes underneath your existing sway bar. It's got a provision for it to go. And this is what it looks like. New spud nut, and that's on that bearing, and that was all hand tight. This is all torqued now. These are torqued. That's greased. That's all in. Now we can put the drag link back across and get ready to take this thing out on a drive. There we go. Stab that in. Alrighty. I'm gonna be upgrading to a Milwaukee. This air just doesn't do it for me anymore. Grinder time. All right, y'all, we shortened this one. I chased the threads and I'm getting this one in, and it's just, there's not a lot of room now that we've got this big piece of beef in here. So we're just gonna run her in 1/4 turn at a time. There's no way to get a socket in here. I don't recall this being mentioned, but you know, you're gonna figure it out. If you're doing something like this, you're gonna have to have some problem solving skills, some troubleshooting skills, because this is fabrication, y'all. This is, I know my welds aren't looking pretty, but yeah, I could have let my chicken shit on it. That might have been better. But show me yours. Just running this in because we need this steering stabilizer. It's kind of imperative with 37s that aren't actually 37. They measured 36.1 brand new. If you've actually done any of these things. Alright, let's put these puppies home. There's number one. There's number two. Alright, y'all. Boom. That's what we look like. Brace in, truss in. We're ready for boogie. I'm gonna get this sucker down. I gotta touch up some paint up here, get the wheels on and torqued, and we're gonna give her a drive. All right, y'all, test drive complete. I forgot to do a video. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I'm just shuffling cars. Truck drove great. There's no steering memory, which would be a thing with adjusting that bearing again. And I just have to, my final thing, I had a slight pull. I've got to let some air out of, or nitrogen out of my steering dampener, because now I've got a little bit of pull to the right, and it's really biasing to the right now. So I'm gonna get that dialed in, and here's my next project is the John Deere tractor. So there it is, y'all. Thuren truss, boogie rated, bad axe, steering brace. We're all in. That's gonna wrap for this one, and let me know if you got questions, comment, like, subscribe, and see you all in the next one.